A warm and pleasant good night to our viewers and radio listeners. Welcome to the inaugural show of Let's Talk About It, a talk show where we will discuss issues that are interesting, issues that our population wants to know about. It is issues that everybody's talking about on the street side, and we're here to talk about it and discuss it. We are live on Channel 10. We're live on Channel 17 on CCV, Channel 61 at CBC, and live on 103.1 SCRS. So a warm good night to all of you. My name is Ravey Gonzalez, born and grown in Orange Walk. I recently completed my studies last year and a half ago from the University of West Indies and the Norman Manley Law School. I will be your host for the show. And with me, I have a young Orange Walk individual by the name of Jaime Burns Jr., as well a recent graduate from the University of the West Indies and Norman Manley Law School. He attended Muffles Junior College, and from then he proceeded to the UWI, University of West Indies in Jamaica, and then Barbados, and then he went back to Jamaica to do his CLE, Certificate in Legal Education. A young man with a very promising future. And he is here as well as part of his duty to society to help impart knowledge, to help us discuss the issues so that we may be able together to better understand how our society works, how politics works, how our government works, and so that collectively and together we can make better decisions for the future of Belize, for the future of our children. Having said that long introduction, let me introduce once again Jaime Burns Jr.
Good night, everyone.
Yes, Jaime, you know, election time is around.
Certainly.
And all sorts of accusations, all sorts of issues, all sorts of rumors are thrown about by the parties involved in politics. And sometimes the electorate, the people who make the difference in the future of Belize, the people that vote, sometimes have difficulty in deciding what to believe and what not to believe. It's almost like there's a difficulty in filtering the truth, because sometimes the truth is obscured, because election time is around and maybe some politicians want to really get desperate and win, so they promise all sorts of things and they make all sorts of accusations against government. And so I believe the discussion is based on facts, based on what is the law, based on what is the reality, so that we can add our 2 cents, like how they say, and we could help the electorate know what is fact from fiction, what is a rumor, what is a blatant lie, and whether some of the accusations have any sort of truth to it, so that we could, again, help the society make better decisions. We know that, I know that you come from, you're much younger than I, and you represent the younger generation. So perhaps you are more involved in what are the issues that faces young people, issues that they are concerned about, but perhaps do not know where to get the source, the credible source. And so tonight, our part of our show is to at least pick on some sort of issue where we could contribute and where we could answer some of the questions that the young voters, the voters in general, might have. So having said the introduction, I invite you to stay with us as we go to our first commercial break, and we will get into our topic for tonight, which is the Senate. So the Senate is very, it has been an issue that has been thrown out. It is an issue that people have concern about. We've heard in the news recently that the People's United Party has made an issue of the 13th senator. Jaime, you as a young person, what is the fuss about the 13th senator?
Well, first and foremost, the United Democratic Party in their 2008 manifesto one of their promises in that manifesto was the introduction or the implementation rather of a 13th senator. Presently, the Senate consists of 12 members, so that 13th member would make the number of members an odd number, and therefore it would allow for a lesser disparity in determining the majority of the Senate whenever they vote on matters. As far as the issue, the United Democratic Party administration since 2008, they passed the Sixth Amendment, in which sought to implement the 13th senator in our Senate. That was done in 2010, and the fuss that's being made is that 5 years has since passed, and even though the amendment was made and passed, the 13th senator has still not been it has still not come to fruition.
Okay, I understand that, but in terms of governance, we have United Democratic Party government today. How does the whole issue of a 13th senator, how does that improve or take away from governance? Does it make for better governance? Does it make for poorer governance? What is the issue with in particular, the 13th senator? When you speak with the young people on the street outside, what is their perception of this 13th senator? In fact, how does it work? Well, perhaps we could start by explaining what is a Senate, so that our viewers and listeners could have an idea how our democracy works, so that when we discuss the 13th senator, they could put it in that picture, so that they know how it will affect governance.
Well, currently, as I had mentioned, the Senate is made up of 12 members, 6 of which are appointed by all are appointed by the Governor General, but 6 are appointed on the advice of the Prime Minister, 3 on the advice of the leader of the opposition, and then you have 1 who's appointed from the churches, 1 from the business community, and 1 from the trade unions, which makes for 12. The President of the Senate, however, can be appointed from outside the Senate, and by virtue of his being the President, he'll be a senator, which then may cause some confusion, because if the President is indeed selected from outside the 12-member pool of the Senate, and then he's by virtue of his presidency a senator, then technically there will be 13 senators already, will there not?
Okay. So you're saying that if by the virtue of the president the individual holding the seat of president, he's a senator. So you're saying that technically we do have 13 senators.
I'm saying that technically, as the Constitution stands, prior to the Sixth Amendment, there is provision for a 13th possible senator, only if he's the president and only if he's selected from outside the 12-member Senate.
But how does this affect governance in terms of what is the role that the Senate plays?
Well, the Senate is, one of their charges is to authorize the ratification of beliefs to any treaty, and they are also in charge of looking into misappropriation of funds by any statutory body or any corruption whatsoever when it comes to governmental organizations. As far as governance, they're the insurers, rather, of governmental integrity.
Okay, so the bill goes to the lower house. The lower house is the House of Representatives, you know.
Yes.
We have a system in which we have politicians run for particular area. We have 31 constituencies.
And therefore 31 era representatives.
31 area representatives. And when one of those parties gathers 16 first past the post system. They form government,
Exactly.
right? And so we have the 31 elected area representatives that go to the House of Representatives.
Yes.
And they are the ones that make laws. And these are the laws that are passed to the Senate.
Yes.
And Senate is the upper house that decides to either pass the law or stall the law, because they go on a vote and decide whether it is, whether in their view it is an appropriate law or it meets to their standards. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Save it if it is a money bill.
Okay. Money bill. Okay. We'll take our first commercial break and then we'll catch up right at money bill when we come back. Stay with us.
You know your baby is happy when wearing Bebin Pampers. Bebin Pampers in all sizes. Bebin Pampers make your baby happy. Available at German Vega and Sons.
Buster. They see you and know you're living. Always a star. Yes, you live in color to the limit. Large and in charge. Yes, that's why you rock with Buster. Refreshing range of colorful flavors. Always a star, never the audience. You run things never run you. Yes, you are the life of it, not just a part of it. Your life is never black and white. Live in full color. Buster.
Digicel is giving you your weekend pass in October. Prepaid customers can talk all weekend long for only $4.99. All you have to do is dial star 956 to activate and make unlimited calls to any Digicel or BTL number. Make sure to get your weekend pass. Talk more with Digicel.
Get more, do more, love more, live more. With Digicel.
Let's get ready to rumble! Y'all ready for this?
Get serious. Get bop.
Welcome back to tonight's Let's Talk About It show. Tonight's topic is the Senate, in more particular, the 13th Senator, an issue that has been in the political mills for a couple of weeks, months, and we're discussing it to trying to find out whether there's any validity to the accusation, the claim that a 13th Senator is the solution to good governance, whether it is of priority enough for the Belizean people in order to make an educated vote for election day. So we were discussing that the Senate is the upper house, and the lower house is the House of Representatives, where we send our area representatives, we vote for them, and they go and they represent us at the House of Representatives. The legislature, they make the laws, and the laws goes from the lower house, the House of Representatives, to the Senate. And the Senate is the one that approves before it goes to the Governor General. But right before the break, Jaime, you had mentioned money bills.
Yes, if the Senate, any money bill, when it's passed, goes directly to the Governor General. does not go through the Senate. Every other bill, though, goes through the Senate, where they then have the authority to send it back to the House of Representatives should they not be satisfied with the bill. They can do so twice before the bill will eventually be sent to the Governor General for his assent.
Okay, when it's sent directly to the Governor General, this is after the 1 month, after the Senate has rejected the money bill, right?
Twice.
Okay, the twice
Or
is the
the-
non-money bill, non-monetary.
Non-money bill.
Okay.
Non-money bill.
So, but what is this thing about control? About, I've heard persons say, well, you put a 13th senator, you lose control. How is our current Senate made up today? In terms of who are the characters, the individuals involved?
Well, in terms of personnel, the current senators of Belize are Marco Pech. He's the president.
The president of the Senate?
He's the president of the Senate. We have Miss Juliet Thimbrell, who is the vice president. We have Godwin Hulse, who is the leader of government business in the Senate. We have Joy Grant. We have Lisel Alamia, or Minister Charles Gibson, rather. We have Gerardo Marconi Sosa. We have Lisa Showman, Patrick Andrews, Anthony Sylvester, Mark Lizaraga, Ray Davis, and Noah Leslie. Those people make up our current Senate.
Okay, so if some controversial bill is supposed to go to the Senate, and keeping in mind that certain senators vote a certain trend, how does the 13th senator, the appointment of a 13th senator, how does that make us, or make the government rather, lose control of when a bill can be passed by the Senate?
Well, what a 13th senator will do, by the nature of it introducing an odd number of members into the Senate, it will then be able to topple the majority either way, and it's more than, and that way will likely be away from the current administration that is in the opposition's favor. Now, the opposition, by its very nature, is supposed to oppose, but they mustn't oppose everything that is presented to them, especially when a bill may be in the very best interest of the Belizean people and populace at large. And what the 13th senator will, or rather if a 13th senator is brought into the Senate, and the majority will then initiate a trend to vote against the current administration.
So, as it is right now, if there's a tie, because you mentioned we have 6 senators
that
appointed by
on
government.
on the advice of the Prime Minister.
Okay, appointed by the Governor General on the advice of the Prime Minister. That's 6.
That's 6.
And then you have 3
That are appointed on the advice of the leader of the opposition.
opposition,
Yes.
and then 3 from different civil
Yes.
societies, right?
Yes, one from the churches, one from the trade unions, and one from the business community.
Business community.
Yes.
So, if there should be a controversial bill, for example, and the Senate has to decide, and they have 6 government voting for naturally voting for the bill because government is passing the bill.
Which has been the trend for years.
Has been the trend.
Whichever administration is in.
Okay. And then you have 3 senators of the opposition voting against it, and you have the 3 senators of the civil society voting against it. What happens then when you have a tie?
Yes, obviously that will be a 6-6 voting split. In the event of a tie, the president shall have what is called a casting vote, which is by definition a second vote, or a vote to lend the majority one way or another.
Which in this case normally goes in the government's favor.
In the government's favor.
But senators are appointed by the group they represent. Am I right?
Yes, they are.
Or they're nominated and then selected, and then that name is suggested to the Governor General, and then he appoints.
Yes.
My concern, my problem with this is that you have 31 area representatives
Yes.
who
we do.
are elected
But elected by the people
by the people.
to represent them.
They are elected on a platform. The platform is, this is what we will do when you get into government. Now these people form government. They decide, this is our plan. This is our laws we want to put in place because this is what the people gave us this mandate.
This is what they want and need. Yes.
Right. So my question, my concern is, how can a group of 6 senators, and if we appoint a 13th senator, you would have 7 senators.
You have 13.
You'll have 13, but 7 would be non-government senators.
Yes, 7 would be
How
non-governmental.
can 7 people who are not elected, because you know they represent a particular group,
Yeah.
just a particular group, and
they're
a
nominated.
small percentage of the voting population.
Very small, yes.
How is it that then these 7 persons who are not elected can decide to thwart, can decide to stall, can decide to frustrate government who were elected on a platform by the country of Belize? No, I have a fundamental problem with that. Because then what happens then if those particular groups have an anti-government agenda?
Yes.
Now, I could understand the opposition.
Like
But by their nature, too,
by their
they're
nature,
the
they
opposition.
oppose,
And,
yes.
and it is, for the most part, some would argue that they need to oppose, to have a semblance of opposition and to try to show society that
And in
they
the
are a
spirit-
better option.
and in the spirit of democracy.
And the spirit of democracy, right. But then my question is, what happens to those societies that may have a hidden agenda? What would happen then if those societies have a hidden agenda and we had enacted the 13th senator? What would have been the result of that?
Well, then if I'm to speculate on that situation, then the result would be that any bill that is passed in the best interests of the Belizean people, any bill that is passed on the mandate of the government when they run for election, and as you said, these people would have hidden agendas. What they would then do is delay the ascension of these bills into law. And as the old adage goes, justice delayed is justice denied. I think to put the matter of the 13th senator, the breadth of it simply, I think the Honorable Dean Barrow said it best when he said that the 13th senator at this point in time would bring only a paralysis to the government's functions, because the government, above all else, has a social charter, which is to improve and better the lives of each and every single Belizean. And passing laws to that effect is perhaps the greatest way of achieving that. And delaying the passing of those laws by way of outnumbering the 6 senators of the current administration in the Senate will cause an unjust delay.
Okay, because what happens if a senator goes beyond his scope of being the oversight body and then starts to implement policy-making decisions? Now, we know that the policy-making decision is left for the government.
Yes.
That is the rightful body that was elected to handle the policy-making decision. The other day, I heard Senator Lizarraga. He was on a local morning show. And
He's a senator for the business community.
the senator for the business
Yes.
community. he made a remark. He said, government, you know the Prime Minister's speech for Independence Day,
Yes.
as part of assisting the KHMH, they had reached an agreement where government would swap debts from KHMH and allow for an increase so that KHMH could afford the increase in salaries that the staff of KHMH rightfully are due. And the Prime Minister of this country had said, you know, this forgiveness of debt, people that go to KHMH and can't afford to pay it and had bills there and can't pay it, and all of a sudden you have people that collect KHMH bill. Anyway, the Prime Minister said, well, we'll do away, we'll forgive those debts. In this morning talk show in Orange Walk, Senator Lizarraga had said words to the effect that government is forgiving debt. It's almost tantamount to encouraging people to be delinquent in the payments are the bills.
Their bills, yes.
But my question was, regardless if Senator Lizarraga likes it or not, that is part of the platform of the government. Then he, as a senator, opposing that policy-making decision of the government is exactly why having a 13th senator would cause, as the Prime Minister said, paralysis.
Paralysis, yes.
Because then you have people who are not elected take on some air that they are the policymakers and decision makers on how the direction this country will go, when they themselves are not elected by the people. Now, perhaps one way of improving governance is having an elected Senate.
Perhaps.
But that in itself has to be really thought out. Will those running for elected Senate go along party lines? What will be the type of parameters set up to ensure that we just don't repeat another political election of Senate that again costs the taxpayers more money, it causes more confusion in election cycles and so forth.
And not only that, but in my personal opinion, before Belize is ready to go down avenues such as an elected Senate, the atmosphere of politics in Belize must be bettered to achieve greater transparency than we currently have between parties.
Okay. So the director is indicating that we need to go to a commercial break. Stay with us as we continue the discussion on the 13th senator.
Ever hear the saying, old bring new? Well, that's exactly what's happening when you come to Digicel. Bring in your old tired smartphone and watch us bring out our new fabulous Digicel 4G phone. And not just that, you get 1 free gig of 4G data, a free SIM card, and $50 free credit too. Just bring a working, active smartphone, and depending on how much you talk, you could get $70 to as much as $300 towards your new Digicel phone. With credit, with data, and with a SIM card. Trade in, trade up, and get more with Digicel.
Get more, do more, love more, live more with Digicel.
Buster. They see you and how you're living. Always a star. Yes, you live in color to the limit. Large and in charge. Yes, that's why you rock with Buster. Refreshing range of colorful flavors. Always a star, never the audience. You run things never run you. Yes, you are the life of it, not just a part of it. Your life is never black and white. Live in full color. Buster.
You know your baby is happy when wearing Bebin Pampers. Bebin Pampers in all sizes. Bebin Pampers make your baby happy. Available at German Vega and Sons.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Y'all ready for this?
Get serious. Get bopped.
Digicel is giving you your weekend pass in October. Prepaid customers can talk all weekend long for only $4.99. All you have to do is dial star 956 to activate and make unlimited calls to any Digicel or BTL number. Make sure to get your weekend pass. Talk more with Digicel.
Get more, do more, love more, live more. With Digicel.
Welcome back to tonight's talk show. Let's talk about it. I'm your host, Rave Gonzalez, with my co-host, Jaime Burns Jr. The issue or the topic for tonight is the 13th senator. What is the big fuss about 13th senator? Is it something with merit, without merit? Is it something that the Belizean electorate has as priority? We're discussing it with Jaime Burns Jr. We've discussed our governance, how it's set up, the lower house, the upper house, the role of the Senate, how the Senate is made up currently. And we're discussing the pros and cons of having a 13th senator, and whether the way that the current system of having senators nominated by certain civil groups, whether that in itself is good governance. We're talking about it. So welcome back. And yes, Jaime, we were discussing that when you have certain individuals who have been nominated to the Senate, and where they take on a role that is a policy-making role, in which
they attempt to.
No, we're not talking about a bill that has problems. We're talking about a bill that is transparent. Everything is included, but they don't like the fact that it's a decision of the government, for example, to forgive certain debts. We're talking about it is wrong, in my view, that somebody who is not elected by the people, is not answerable to a large number of people, can decide and take upon himself to start to vote against certain bills because he or she does not accept the direction in which the government is taking. We're discussing that in that scenario, it would be very, very irresponsible for a government to appoint a 13th senator, because it would create an environment where if the individuals have something against the direction, the policy-making direction the government is taking, then that individual is no longer making a decision on the bill itself, the merits of the bill, whether it is transparent, whether there's accountability, the things that each political party uses as its platform. The vote is no longer based on the transparency of the bill itself, but it's based on their idea of what is the policy-making decision of government.
I agree that at many times their decisions, or they are inclined to vote against a particular bill. And my sincere belief is that too many times they do so because, or they decide on partisan particulars, and doing so at many times in spite of the best interests of the Belizean people is irresponsible. And like you said, they are not elected by the Belizean populace. They are not, we do not put them there, or rather the general electorate does not. They are appointed by certain groups. So for them to believe that they wield such policy-making power is wrong. And the entire political atmosphere in Belize needs to be elevated to standards whereby the best interests of the people is truly at heart of each and every member of both the lower and upper house of the entire National Assembly. And that every single meeting must be convened to work to that end. And opposing policies because of partisan affiliations many times spite Belizean people out of betterment.
You spoke about the environment, and we know that senators are nominated from a small group. Wouldn't the current way our Senate is made up, not with the 13th, just with the 12th, that you have certain, is it possible for certain individual to infiltrate certain civil societies and manipulate it in a way that she could or he could get the removal of a senator and appoint somebody who reflects more, not maybe perhaps the general view of the civil group, but more on lines of an anti-government stance?
Well, the very makeup of the Senate, 3 are appointed by the leader of the opposition. So it's no secret, it's no qualm that they are at the agenda of the opposition. But I think you mean rather the other 3 who are appointed by the societies. Yes, members of either political party, truthfully, can infiltrate those societies and see their appointment to the position by ensuring that they're the individuals who are ultimately given or nominated, who are ultimately nominated to the Governor General for appointment to the Senate. That is exactly why the 6 senators outside of the 6 appointed on the advice of the Prime Minister can at many times equally oppose those very 6 that are appointed by the current administration, or the Prime Minister rather, or on his advice,
So the way it stands, theoretically, all things being perfect, and we know that's not going to happen.
We know that's just theoretical.
That's theoretical.
Yes.
Where you have senators representing the civil societies, where they are not swayed by any particular agenda serving some other purpose other than a genuine intention of looking at bills and applying their principles in terms of whether it's transparent.
Yes. Engaging the merits of the bill.
Right.
Yes.
It would work to have a 13th senator.
Well,
I mean, in a perfect society, in a perfect environment where people are not, they are genuine individuals, and that you can't sway them back or forth, or they don't serve any agenda. Is that a possibility?
I would say that it is. In a perfect political atmosphere, It certainly is, but even so, there's no such thing. So we must safeguard our abilities to act on and for the people of Belize and their best interests. And by not yet introducing the 13th senator, I believe that they're doing so. We're doing so.
Okay. So you would agree with me then that being practical, knowing that you are elected on a platform, a particular platform, and that you have only a particular timeline to deliver, a period to deliver those goods and services,
Yes.
requires you to be efficient as a government.
Certainly.
And being efficient as a government requires you that you do not put in place a system that could subvert your development or the policies that you were elected on,
Yes. That will hinder you.
or hinder or
Yes.
stall, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, and you would also agree, I believe, that when they have Senate meetings, these particular senators that represent these, the opposition and the civil society, have the opportunity for air out whatever concern that they have. So there is still that ability of the bill being debated, the people getting to hear what is their views, representing their particular society, their views on that particular bill. So in terms of governance, there is still this bill that comes to light. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing that is hidden from the Belizean society.
And neither sector of it.
Right. So it goes to the Senate, and there is this healthy debate, which debates are healthy. And the bill is torn to pieces in terms of the opposition saying, we believe that this is not good, and you have the representatives of the civil society saying, we don't agree with this, or we agree with this. That in itself is a part of good governance in the way the system is set up today.
I certainly agree. As you just mentioned, the debates are the bedrock of democracy, and any meeting in which the Senate convenes, that presents the very forum for every single senator, all 12, regardless of appointment. All 12 senators then have the forum to present their views on the bill, its merits, its pros, its cons, and why that's the stance that they have taken, and that they have taken it upon the sector of societies which they represent.
I'm saying this in particular because, we had the telecommunication, the recent bill with the settlement of the BTL.
The BTL acquisition. Yes.
And the reason I mentioned that all the senators have an opportunity to rip the bill to pieces, to discuss, is because, in particular, of what this minister said, Hulse. He's the Minister of Immigration, Labor, and also the senator for representing part of government.
Yes, he's the Minister of Labor, Local Government.
He had mentioned the fact, words to this effect, that you have the bill in front of you. You may not like certain aspects of the bill, as the opposition had highlighted, but it is there in black and white for every single person to see. There is nothing hidden. And the fact that you can debate it is good for governance. Because anybody who is listening and say, well,
Yes, people can choose. Well, I agree with this side, or I agree with that perspective. And it's not just to the avail of the senators, it's to the avail of every single Belizean.
Right. But in terms of the oversight, in terms of the Senate doing its job, debating a bill, even though it is only 12 senators, and even though the president of the Senate voted for the government side, we're saying that the Belizean population was able to hear the debate, was able to hear opposing views on the bill, and supporting views, And that is what the people, I believe, want to know, that it's not anything that is passed through the Senate that will have this glorious approval, that everybody is bending backwards to approve. And that is a healthy aspect of governance because it brings information to light. People get to know every single aspect of it. And then at the end of the day, government passes it. And you know who will judge government is doing a good job?
The people of Belize.
The people of Belize,
Yes.
when they go to elections. So we're going to go to our final break. Stay with us for our final segment of Let's Talk About It. The topic for tonight is the 13th Senator.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Y'all ready for this?
Get serious. Get bopped.
You know your baby is happy when wearing Bebin Pampers. Bebin Pampers in all sizes. Bebin Pampers make your baby happy. Available at German Vega and Sons.
Digicel is giving you your weekend pass in October. Prepaid customers can talk all weekend long for only $4.99. All you have to do is dial star 956 to activate and make unlimited calls to any Digicel or BTL number. Make sure to get your weekend pass. Talk more with Digicel.
Get more, do more, love more, live more. With Digicel.
Buster. They see you and how you're living. Always a star. Yes, you live in color to the limit. Large and in charge. Yes, that's why you rock with Buster. Refreshing range of colorful flavors. Always a star, never the audience. You run things never run you. Yes, you are the life of it, not just a part of it. Your life is never black and white. Live in full color. Buster.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, TV viewers, radio listeners, to our show, Let's Talk About It. Tonight's topic is the 13th Senator. We have discussed the composition of the Senate as succinctly as we could. We have discussed the role of the Senate. We have been discussing
Their powers.
the powers of the Senate,
Their functions.
the function, the role, the possible roles, or the role of the 13th Senator, how that may change the dynamics of the role of the Senate in terms of their power to delay bills passed by the lower house.
It may change the landscape of our entire governance.
And change the landscape, well said, of our entire governance in terms of rejecting bills that are approved by the lower house. And so we are talking about the Senate as an oversight body which has the opportunity to discuss all bills that are sent by the lower house, sent by the government, the House of Representatives.
Yes.
And we were explaining that the fact that those bills are made public and the fact that senators for the government, for the opposition, and those senators representing the civil societies have the opportunity to take apart a bill and explain it, criticize it, debate it,
Get down to the real nitty-gritty.
get down to the real nitty-gritty,
Yes.
and explain it their way to the Belizean public. We're saying that that is an excellent aspect of good governance, because there's not the issue or problem of transparency, because everything is declared to the public, everything is shown to them, and that ultimately, when the bill is passed, that the ones who decide whether they approve of the direction the government is going is the electorate, the people of Belize, who vote for those that are in the House of Representatives and not those that are selected to be or handpicked as members of the Senate. So, Jaime, I read and I saw in the recent news that the PUP now are saying, as part of their platform, that they will enact the 13th senator. I mean, they haven't said that they will not enact a 14th and a 15th. I don't know whether that platform itself is. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, they're doing so, in my view, is piggybacking on a 7-year-old manifesto from the UDP from 2008. They ran on the platform of introducing the 13th senator. They passed the 6th Amendment, and it was assented to by the Governor General. All that's left is for the Prime Minister to set a date when the law will actually come into force. However, his delay in doing so is because he is of the belief, and I believe that he has every reason to believe so, that the political environment, especially right now, given that elections are a month away, it's too heated, and people will be seeing blue or red and not blue and red. That is Belize, and for people will not be seeing the interests of one people. Right now, in the next 4 weeks, there will be partisan segregation, and perhaps even a bit beyond. So when I have every confidence that our Prime Minister, being the sensical man that he is, knows what he is doing and will implement the 13th senator when Belize and our mode of governance is well equipped and ready for it.
So you foresee that any government
Yes.
that places 13th senator, as it is right now with the environment that it has right now, where some of the civil societies are engaging even in political work. In that type of environment, definitely it will be almost irresponsible to put a 13th senator, because what you're doing is you're creating your own problems.
Exactly.
Okay. And tell me something, Jaime. The young people, the young voters of today, what are their concerns with regards to good governance and the 13th senator?
Well, first of all, their concerns as to good governance. In my opinion, what's generally the consensus among the youth is that is something that we demand, and not just the youth, but every single Belizean citizen with our country at heart, every patriot should want the best governance for this country. So that, first and foremost, is where we stand. And any issue contingent to our governance is one that raises concern and not just mere curiosity in the minds of every single one of us. So when we hear an issue being made about the 13th senator, what we want is a forum exactly like this one, where we get to thrash out the pros and the cons and the whys and the hows and the whatnots. And to that end, I hope that this very segment has been helpful in explaining this very issue, why the amendment has been passed, but why has it not yet been enforced? What are the ripple effects of having a 13th senator, and what it will present to our present style of governance?
So, having good governance does not necessarily means having a 13th senator.
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily, right. And perhaps having, I would argue then, that perhaps having a 13th senator is bad governance, because then what happens to the efficiency of government delivering all its goods and services? But that is the same sentiments that I share. I think the good governance is something is fundamental, and the topic of good governance takes many angles, takes many shapes. Tonight we were just zoning in on the Senate as it's currently made up, and this whole issue of the 13th senator. The way the current Senate is made up, in terms of there are these senators who are appointed by the Governor General on the advice of the opposition and civil groups, and having a 13th senator perhaps is not, more than likely is not the way to improve good governance at this point in the manner in which it was made up. In fact, I believe that the people of Belize, once their government is elected and delivers on the goods and services promised, and that bills are tabled and there's the opportunity to debate it, there's the opportunity to bring it to light,
to explore and
to
explain.
explore and explain and
Yes.
criticize and
Yes.
debate it, that structure as it is good governance. And until there can be some sort of entire policy reform or some sort of committee set up to look at the way in which our Senate is made up, then the issue of a 13th senator should be mute.
I certainly believe so.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk About It. Our discussion was the 13th senator, issue that has come up in the political landscape. Tune in next week. Join Jaime Burns Jr. and myself as we discuss another issue that is in the political landscape, issues that we believe requires some sort of explanation to the populace. And then we will have a repeat of this show on Thursday at 8 o'clock. So once again, thank you very much for your host, Rave Gonzalez, and your co-host, Jaime Burns Jr. We say good night.
Good night, Belize.
We thank Maurice Kokom, our director, Rahim Wagner, our video controls and graphics coordinator, and Normando Esquiliano, our audio technician. And from the staff and all of us here tonight, pleasant good night, and we'll see you again on Tuesday of next week. Good night.